This is the place where Palestinians welcome Jews as they suffered oppression in Europe. Palestine. What is Palestine? On 1967, this is where Israeli settlers started taking over more land from the West Bank, and they just kept on taking more of the land, more and more and more. The occupation government brings them over and facilitates them with land, and they are the ones that hold power on the border and the weapons. Since 1967, the number of Israeli settlers is excessively increasing in the West Bank. This is because every Jew on earth, even if he was born in Poland, has a right to take over our land as well as citizenship here. A Jew can build, and build very easy, whereas Palestinians has restrictions, because their aim is very clear.
So when I'm living in this place, it gives me a purpose, it gives me a reason.
We must learn the term Judaization. Judaization means basically turning a place into a property of the Jews. And to understand how we got this far, we need to go back in time. And so the story begins during the Ottoman Empire, and the Jewish that goes by the name of Theodor Herzl, also the author of the Jewish State Book. He had the ideology of creating a nation and a country of Jews across the globe. And so Herzl demanded a piece of land in Palestine from the Ottoman Sultan Abdul Hamid II back in the old days, who was at the time the guardian of Palestine. And of course, Sultan Abdul Hamid has rejected his request. But they just kept on trying and trying to establish that nation of their own. But the Palestinians welcomed them. They welcomed them as visitors.
We Jews intend to live in peace with the Arabs. We don't intend to come to Palestine as conquerors.
Until the declaration of Balfour happened and made all that mess, which was named after the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Britain back at the time, which was named was Balfour. 1917, it was promised that at the declaration of Balfour that they would create a Jewish state for them in Palestine. And the reason why, because Britain at the time was strong enough, and at the time also the Ottomans lost the war against them and lost Palestine. And this really have accelerated the immigration of Jews from all over the world to Palestine, with the temptations for Jews and full support of the Zionism. As well, this was an encouragement and facilitation from the government of Britain. And they're like, yeah, this land is yours, come over, don't worry about it.
Surely the Jewish people is no less deserving than other people.
As I told you, every conflict, there's always Britain or France that is behind it. 1948. Just let that sink for you in your head for a minute. The day of Nakba, or the Palestinian disaster. So Britain announced its withdrawal, and along with that came the establishment of the State of Israel on the Palestinian land. And they pulled back after enabling the Jews. This is how the map was split. The lines don't define borders. There are technically no borders. But however, the occupied Palestine was only made within these lines, which is called the West Bank. And they gave it that because it was on the west side of the river Jordan. But if we zoom on the map here and we look closely, you'll see this twisted line over here. This is where Jerusalem has been divided to east within the whole of Jordan, and the west side belongs to Israel. Until 1967, when Israel has occupied the rest of and parts of the Jordan West Bank River, which enabled them to construct more settlements, because they have this ideology that this land is their own and they need to kick everyone out.
The State of Israel is a Jewish project.
And the thing is, they want to seize all of that so they can make a whole circle around Jerusalem and actually corner it from all corners.
These hardliners believe that Israel exists primarily for Jews, and thus they're entitled to rights and benefits that others are
And
not.
that's the thing. They believe that every house around like Jerusalem should be taken. And it should be taken only by them. And that's the thing, if this is now or later, this belief exists in their own mind.
So I think that each Jew should get his own plot of land, and non-Jews shouldn't.
What about the ones who are already here?
And so they started building settlements after 1960 in the occupied West Bank.
People have come home. That's not going to change.
And the funny thing, they followed the policy of land confiscation. They took the land from the West Bank and they started building settlements over them and started bringing Jews from all over the world. And this is the thing, regardless like where you were born, as a Jew, you're entitled to land and a citizenship. Just think of that for a second.
Right now, there's a right for Jews to come to Israel and to get your citizenship.
And the funny thing is, the land from who? Obviously from Palestine. Look at how the Israeli government advertises the free houses and land they can provide to Jews all over the world from Jerusalem. And this is why the reason they kept on building more settlements every single day.
Always felt a deep yearning for Jerusalem. Now is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, not only to stand within its gates, but also to build the home of your dreams there. A prestigious residential project is currently taking shape.
But however, the Jew can. You see the bystander as if you're a Palestinian, you can never come back. I mean, never. The Palestinian issue has passed through several stages.
Jewish settlers have moved to the Palestinian territories into settlements that are illegal according to the international law.
Until they reach the Oslo Declaration. The Oslo Accord, which is not implemented at the moment, a worldwide agreement, and it was at the early 90s. And the Zionist entity was recognized by Palestine Liberation Organization, and they created the Palestinian National Authority on some areas which controls the West Bank.
فسكنوا المستوطنين بال 2009 شهر 11 2009 هجموا.
لكن تم فصله من النص حي الشيخ جراح.
تهجير القسري جريمة حرب.
This is Muna al-Kurd. She's holding on to her house for many years. And this Jew settler has taken over half of her house since 2009. The Israeli government sends over settlers every now and then to bother the Palestinian residents. They're trying to make their voice heard around the world.
They're stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it. I have no ownership over this property.
You're from Brooklyn?
No, I'm from New York, from Long Island.
From New York. What right do you have to live here?
The right I have is that the owner of the house wants me to live here, and he wants there to be Jews living in this house, and he wants to... And I got chosen for whatever reason. It ended up being me.
Why do you steal more and more Palestinian land? Why do you steal land from the Palestinians?
In the Torah, God gave it to us, and it's our land, and we were here.
Jewish people have come home. That's not going to...
So now let me tell you about a really important matter. This is the old city of Eastern Jerusalem, and this is the Aqsa Mosque and the Haram al-Sharif, and which is located within this wall. And then all entrances of this wall is spread along 144,000 square meters. And this is overall called the Aqsa Mosque, and this is the neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah on the map. This is the eastern city of Jerusalem under the occupation of Israel, according to United Nations and the international law. And the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood is located within eastern Jerusalem, just 2 kilometers away from the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and has an extremely critical location. And in case it turns into an Israeli settlement as they planned for, and then Jerusalem disappears and all the settlements connect. This circle where they they plan on taking over all the land around it and occupy it all. Look at this channel, for example. They had a man ask the settlers the reason why they decided to live within the conflict.
Best view, the best weather, close to my parents.
And why a settler decided to take over someone else's house and live in a conflict. They find peace, beautiful land to live on, close to Jerusalem, top schools and top universities for their kids.
It's a great place to raise kids.
It's a beautiful view, and it's our beautiful land, and I love looking at it.
And after all that, they say God promised us to live on this land.
God promised to us that this is our land. We can grow here if we listen to Him.
Do you imagine how they are living compared to the Palestinians that are living in Sheikh Jarrah? And obviously this is what you call a conflict. This is called struggle. This is ethnic cleansing, oppression, and occupation. I mean, let's think about it. Who holds the power and arm? The airport and borders are in the hand of the occupation, and Gaza is under siege. They can only leave through Egypt. At the crossing, Gaza has no Israeli settlers. They all retreated 2005.
Want to see a Sheikh Jarrah Jewish?
Of course.
Without Arabs?
I want to see Jews.
But Gaza is under siege. It means basically you are in a prison, just a little bit bigger. We're going back to Sheikh Jarrah and the beginning. Everything started in Sheikh Jarrah. So settlers were provoking and attacking Palestinians in the area with the Israeli forces with them. And the escalation has reached till Aqsa Mosque, and the occupiers actually went in and started throwing bombs. When they started throwing tear gas bombs and flashbangs in the holiest place, the first two qiblas and the third holiest mosque in Islam, they want Jews to cross to the Barak through the mosque. Why do they even do that? Everyone know in Israel right now it's an election period, and Netanyahu has yelled to the extremists, and he has to support their demand, their extremist demands. They are so strict extremists. For him, in order to win the election, he has to follow these extremists, their own agenda, and do as they wish. And in the recent incident in 2008, 2009, 2012, and 2014, and the current events in 2021, may the Israeli analysts call the Zionist project of establishing a nation for Jews is disappearing. It won't survive 100 years. And Israel is very close to fading away.
تدريك شعبك يا الوفد وتدريبه انت المحبتك بالقلب تدريبه